All right, and we're live. Feels good to be back once again. Another episode of the premier podcast for Xbox, Tick Podcast. Lots of news, man. Lots of things happened recently on the Xbox front. We have a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, it's super late on the East Coast, so we're going to try to keep it short, but try to get to some hard points about what's happening with Microsoft, what's happening with Xbox. A lot of controversy today about some comments that Phil said, and I'm definitely going to address that and give my thoughts on it, and give my opinions on it, because I think that a lot of it is blown out of proportion. But at the same time, I do understand everyone's gripe about some of the things that he said. So we'll definitely talk about that. So again, if you're joining the show late, we appreciate you stopping in. As always, please give us a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate that support. And hopefully you enjoyed tonight's show. Let's begin. Welcome to the Inner Circle Podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox One. I'm your host, KORXKLL, and with B Money 101 and Anchorman V.
Hey, everybody.
We are the Inner Circle. Unfortunately, tonight B is not able to make it. It might be late, and we might have gotten to him a little bit late. We normally do our shows on Thursdays, but today we missed yesterday for unforeseen reasons. So today we're going to do a show for you guys because we want to be consistent and make sure you guys get great Xbox news and information. Phil Spencer came out and said some things that really ticked off a lot of the Nintendo and PlayStation fans today. And everybody's getting on my man Phil. Listen, I understand where people are coming from. I don't think people understand what Phil is actually saying and really kind of taking it to heart. It's unfortunate that this will probably be another PR nightmare for Phil and the Xbox crew. It's almost like they have to be so careful with what they say, because no matter how good things may be, they will always be on eggshells. And that's kind of like how I feel. It's almost like you can't say anything negative, or you can't say anything borderline negative. People will just take it to heart and try to destroy you and call for you to be fired and all types of stuff like that. So if you haven't heard, we said, Phil came out, he spoke about games and how Microsoft are really reinvesting in first party. And that though games like Horizon Zero Dawn and games like Zelda are very successful, I don't know how to say this, but they kind of like, they don't benefit long term, single player wise, because long term they don't make money. And I understand it. And I don't think people got that thought because of the simple fact that the games are so good. Obviously, when you have a very good game and you have a very successful game, that leads to more people coming in to purchase other games and purchase your console to play the games that you put out there. But the reality of it is, it's true. And I think people don't want to accept that. If you pick up a game that's a single player experience, when you play that game, for the most part, it's pretty much done. Sometimes people pick up DLC, sometimes people don't, if the game does have DLC. And for the most part, long term financially, you don't really make money 2-3 years down the road. And I think the reason why he brought that up is because in his recent comments, he talked about games like Destiny, which may not have been critically acclaimed, but you think about how that game milked the hell out of everybody. I mean, literally, people were buying expansions for $40, $50 and playing literally the same game over and over and over again. But there's something about that addictive gameplay that makes people keep coming back for more. And that's the longevity I think Phil was talking about when it came to some of the things that they want to do. Now, it was not to say that they won't do first party games again, or single player, excuse me, I'm gonna say first party. They won't do single player games again. I just think that they also understand the long-term benefits of having services and subscriptions a part of their ecosystem. I think people don't realize that when you have an ecosystem like the Game Pass, where you pay $10 a month for those who purchase it, that's a big benefit for Xbox. If you have, let's say 10 million people picking up this picking up this service, and that could really kind of like soften the blow of any game that maybe you might pick up that doesn't do well. You look at the games Microsoft had that were single player experiences, Sunset Overdrive, Quantum Break, Rise, none of those games were like knocking anything out the park. It's not to say they aren't good games. They just haven't been commercially successful. Rated well, but not commercially successful. And though some of those games may be cult classics, I don't know if Microsoft is willing to invest X amount of money into those big budget single player titles when they're not making a profit, an immediate profit. Because again, long term, that doesn't help. You need that initial impact within that first, 3, 6 to a year worth of sales. Because after the second year or third year, that game is on the decline, and you're more than likely putting it on Games with Gold or trying to get it out on massive discounts. So I get where he's coming from. Anchor, did you hear this today?
I did. Now, in particular, there were a lot of really cool ideas about it. I saw the thing about the comment about Netflix of gaming and all that kind of stuff, and it's mainly just talking about Games Pass and making games more of a service and having a platform for like all of the episodic games and things of that nature. But again, the thing that's getting the most attention is the comment about Horizon Zero Dawn and Legend of Zelda. Now, it's a touchy subject, but people got to remember, for every Horizon Zero Dawn, there's an Order 1886.
Right.
There's a single player only game is a risk, because you're basically saying it's a one-time buy, and there's a higher likelihood of used game sales, where I played through it once, I'm done, I'm out of there. And I think you brought up a good point that like they have the metrics, they see what people are playing. And just as an example, I mean, we're doing this on a Friday night. This is peak times and that kind of stuff. And so I'm taking a look at what the most played games are on Xbox right now. And I'll give you the top 25 just to give you the smallest semblance of this. And I want you to keep in mind which games are are single player only games. So in the top 20, at number 19 is Smite. Number 20 is Smite. Number 19 is Fallout 4. Forza Horizon 3. Ghost Recon Wildlands, FIFA 17, NFL 17, Infinite Warfare, Rocket League, Destiny, Battlefield 1, Roblox, which is free, Overwatch, Black Ops 3, Rainbow Six Siege, Minecraft, Black Ops 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, and NBA 2K17.
Wow.
On the
2K17 is number one?
On Xbox, there's only one game that is a single-player game only.
Right.
That's Fallout 4.
Right.
And because past that, I mean, then you got Mass Effect Andromeda, which just came out last month, and that's predominantly a single-player game, and it's not even the top 25. For Honor's there, well, For Honor's like right next to it, though. I mean, it's single-player games do not stay up that long. And I see why there's a problem with that. And at least from a business perspective, that's a tough sell. And you're putting a lot of money on a single-player game that may not succeed. I mean, look at Quantum Break. Perfect example. They got burned. Sunset Overdrive didn't fall that well in comparison to what people were hoping it would be. I mean, they don't sell as well as people want them to be. It's hard from a business perspective for them to. Everyone keeps saying, "Keep throwing money at this. Keep throwing money at this," when it's not. You're not buying it.
That's why I sit up here and I get where the PlayStation or the Nintendo fan comes from, because obviously you want those single player experiences. I'm an RPG guy, so I'm always looking for the next big RPG, whatever the platform it may be on, but in particular Xbox, because I prefer the console and I would like to just play games on that particular console. And even when you look back in the day, again, Fable, I think Fable 3 did 5 million, but that was like lifetime at that point. And over a lifetime, that's not
giving that game away.
Over a lifetime, 5 million isn't something where you're making massive amounts of money. If it was 5 million on some Halo mess like within a year or something back in the day, then sure, but not like 5 million over a lifetime. Single player experiences for some period on Xbox, they just don't work. I don't know why they don't. For some apparent reason, they don't. The big ones that do work are third party. Red Dead Redemption, Fallout, Skyrim, like those games that are major, BioShock, Mass Effect, those games are majorly third party. Now, if Microsoft could get the talent or figure out a way to create games similar to that, and that ilk, then they would be onto something. But for some apparent reason, they have not. This is why I continue to stress that I think that it would be great if 343 was able to make something else besides Halo, because, even though they make shooters, you have to tip your hat off to Guerrilla and what they've done. Killzone was not the greatest game by any measure. I think a lot of people liked it. I think it was good. It wasn't great. I don't think it was better than Halo in any sense of the word. However, they continue to put that game out, and eventually they hit with Horizon Zero Dawn, which is probably going to be a classic for the PlayStation 4. And I think that Microsoft should allow 343 to do it. Now, I get that studio was built particularly for Halo. I understand that, but developers are developers, and these guys know how to make games. They just don't sit there and just make Halo all day. You look at what used to be Black Tusk and the Coalition and how they were experimenting with the now shelved Shanghai, which was more of a tech demo than an actual game. But you look at that particular game and how that could have been a new IP that could have been impressive, or a replacement for something like a Perfect Dark or a single player adventure. And in return, they went for something that was a sure thing in Gears of War 4. And even Gears of War 4 didn't knock it out the park, I guess you could say, the way it used to on 360. And I think that's a testament to people who either have moved on from Xbox to PS4 or just feel oversaturated with the games that Microsoft has produced, even though they're great quality titles. So for me, I understand where Phil's coming from. Phil wants to continuously make money for the company. That allows him to continuously get money to invest into IP, first party, and things like that. And they tried their hand at single player experiences. It didn't work. And again, you have bosses to answer to. Sony is completely reliant on first party in the games that they put out on PlayStation. They're completely reliant on PlayStation. And Nintendo is completely reliant on Nintendo. But Microsoft isn't relying on Xbox, and you have to continuously appease the board. And when things don't go well, then they question, what are their investments are going to, and Phil has to answer to people and things like that. And when you have to answer to people, bad things happen. Cancellations happen. Games don't get made. It happens. It's a weird thing. I feel like, again, I keep saying this. I know a lot of Xbox fans don't like hearing this, but I continuously say this all the time. I think that Microsoft holds Xbox back. I constantly say that. I don't know why people don't see what I see, but I constantly think that they do, because listen, the organization as a corporation, it's huge. They have their hands in everything. This is a $1 billion company for a reason. This is not something that's local. This is a worldwide, one of the richest companies in the world, literally the top 3, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft we're talking about. So it tells you that, yes, the Xbox division is just a division, and they want to invest in PC gaming. They want to invest in console gaming. They want to invest in the living room. There's a lot of things that they want to constantly do with their gaming division. And surprisingly, their gaming division actually did really well recently. They had a 7% increase in revenue year over year, which was an improvement software wise. And that's great for them. And I think Scorpio was going to be a big deal for them and actually move some pretty good units, not in a way where I think it's going to surpass PlayStation 4, but in a way where I think it's going to make Xbox a prominent console to look at once again. And that's great for them. And us Xbox gamers out there who really, enjoy the platform and enjoy, what they're going to bring to the table. But I wouldn't get bent out of shape over these comments. I really wouldn't. I think you have to really look at what Phil is actually trying to say instead of getting offended. I think everybody's overly sensitive. We're like in the world of PC. You know what I'm saying? People are so offended at the smallest things, whether you make a joke about a woman or a man, or if it's racial or something like that. And being overly sensitive, even in the gaming world. If someone says anything against Xbox, or if someone says anything against PlayStation, we're constantly on the defensive. And I don't think that we should be on the defensive as much. We should really just kind of take in what people are saying, analyze it, and logically think about these things. And I know what I'm saying is kind of crazy because logic and fanboy doesn't mix. Like, that's not something that most people will be like, come on, come on, Cal, what are you saying right now? Like, that doesn't make sense. We all know fanboys don't make sense. But if you are an actual gamer and you do prefer a particular platform, you really have to think about the logical aspect of what he's saying, and things like that. There's a reason why PS Now is on PC. They want to make money. And, if Horizon Zero Dawn sells 2 million or 3 million, that's cool. But that's not great when you have an install base of 60 million. And I want people to understand that. That's for real. Like, seriously, with 60 million people as your install base, 2 or 3 million is not great. That's not smashing numbers. It really isn't. You really need to be around with where Uncharted is at about 8 or 9 million.
That ain't no what's the term? That ain't no Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild attach rate there.
So and there's no knock on PlayStation, because Xbox ain't even nowhere close, honestly, when some of their titles, Halo being one, but Forza's and the other titles they put out have broke 1 million. They're around about 30 million install base. So, it says a lot. And you look at third party continuously blows up, and it's just a crazy dynamic. But I don't think Phil's bashing Zelda. I don't think Phil is bashing Horizon Zero Dawn. So I don't think people need to be, going out of control, blowing up over that. I just think it's a simple statement about what he sees and what they see analytically. And it's the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And if that's what the numbers are telling him, then I understand the direction.
Yeah.
So,
and there's also the factor of, you got to look at it from the perspective of, and we have a hard time talking about this. We really do, because you have to look at it from the two different perspectives, as a consumer and as a businessman. You got to look from the perspective of a businessman. Single player games don't make money. You get the initial sale, maybe, and that's it. And then everything gets sold over to everything gets sold over to secondary sales and then used sales, and just you're not making the money. But a digital game, more specifically, not just a digital game, but a multiplayer game, you have the ability to keep people playing. And that means that's a copy that isn't sold back to used, and that means a new copy can be sold to somebody else. And there's also the factor of word of mouth. It is much easier to get someone to go buy the game if you're gonna say, "Hey man, come play with us," as opposed to, "Oh man, you got to play this game." Like, it is much easier to say, "Hey man, come play with us." It is so much easier. Like, example, like Ark, like getting you on Ark. It's like, "Hey man, you got to play Ark. You got to play with us." So much easier to get you to do that. Say, "Hey man, you got to play Fallout 4. You got to go play it."
Right. I agree. I just, and I say this again, I think Microsoft has to find a balance. They have to. They can't solely be reliant on multiplayer games, because again, that will eventually get stale over time. And sequels, of course, sequels are awesome, and improving upon the first title is great, but at the same time, you have to be able to move on from that product, and you have to have a balance and a mix of RPG, first player adventure, and things like that. So hopefully we'll see some big things coming up at E3. I'm excited for it. I've heard some things and some comments from, shout out to Randolph Thor, from TXR podcast, as well as Xbox 2 with him and Jez. I read some comments from him, and he's not really confident in what they're going to show at E3. However, just listening and reading some of the thoughts and hearing some of the things, and actually recently seeing something has actually made me believe that we will see some things for 2018 that I'm excited about. So we're going to jump into Microsoft's new studio that they that they are working with, which is pretty cool. And I actually have an idea of what they may be working on. I mean, clearly it's going to be a guess, but I think if they did this, it would be pretty cool. Not something that I would buy in particular unless it really was awesome. But before doing that, I want to talk about comments recently made by one of the Microsoft executives, that works within the not Xbox, the Microsoft division, which is above, the person that's above Phil Spencer. So they, Satya Nadella had an interview recently, and they spoke about how the gaming division is very important to Microsoft and their PC and the console and the Windows space, and building that space as a place for people to go. Xbox Live is now at 52 million active users, and that's across mobile, Xbox, and Windows PC. Again, as I said before, they have a 7% increase in revenue due to software, which means the division is doing extremely well. They're in the positive right now. But one of the comments that came out of that was, give me 1 second to bring it up. I can't remember the person's name, but one of the executives had an interview, and this comes from DualShockers, is where I got this information. Hood then gave an overview on the expectations for the current quarter, teasing more info on Scorpio and new game announcements for E3. End quote. In gaming, we expect to see continued healthy user engagement on our Xbox platform, and look forward to E3 in June, when we'll share more on Project Scorpio and new titles for the next fiscal year. Now, bad eye at that. I thought that was not significant or not important, but it was good to see because it gave positivity to the Xbox brand, considering Fable got canceled, Scalebound got canceled, and you had Phil talk about not wanting to announce things too early, because announcing things too early could lead to cancellations, and then you just have egg on your face once again. But the fact that I believe Miss Hood, I believe it is a woman, by the way, stated that they're going to be showing new titles for the next fiscal year, means that goes into, I believe, most of this. Well, the fiscal year ends when? At the end of the year, right? For most companies, most corporations. Anchor?
We're about that time right now. I mean, Sony and Microsoft both released their end of the year projections. Seems about right. I used to be on top of this, but kind of slacked in recent years.
Yeah, I think for them, the fiscal year, probably the new fiscal year, I think begins. I don't know if it begins now or begins in fall, but I know that they are going to be. This is going to be a big focus for 2018. Clearly, going into the next fiscal year, having new IP, knowing that they will show things for 2018 is big. I don't think that they're going to have a lot for this fall, because they already have games that have been pushed back. And again, I've said this before: Crackdown, Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, Forza 7. You have Cuphead. There's a few indies. Maybe you get one new IP at the end of the year. You can't oversaturate it when you're competing with Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption. I don't see how they can do it. In my opinion, they should actually.
July 1st. There you go.
July 1st? Okay, so July 1st.
Microsoft has it set up so they're, at least according to this article here, that their fiscal year starts July 1st and ends June 30th.
That's amazing, because then that's right after E3, which is in June. They'll show you their new titles going into July, which will then probably drop games from August to about November. Hopefully they don't put anything major around Red Dead Redemption, Call of Duty, or any other big major title. And then you have whatever you're going into spring of 2018, all the way into, winter 2018, and then spring of 2018. And that makes sense. And I would want them to do that. Honestly, I would not want them to show anything for winter of 2018. I would rather see new IPs and new games for 2018 at E3 2018. And I think that would be the smart thing to do from now on. I would show what you're going to do for this holiday and what you're going to do for spring of 2018, second quarter or first quarter of 2018, and not go any further than that. Because if you have something and it's a year off, don't give us a year of anticipation. Just don't even tell us, and work on your game.
I think
that's a good idea.
It's tough, because part of me is like, I agree with you in that regard. I totally agree that they should keep it short. Like, okay, whatever you announce at this E3, it better be coming out before the next E3. Like it's gotta be within a year. And I would love for them to do that. And my problem with it though is just that I want them to be able to do that. But at the same time, people have something to look forward to. And that's really one of the things of Sony in particular, where they don't really care when it comes out, just announce it. Throw it out there. And
Right.
I don't like it personally because I like dates. I like things I know I'm going to get in the next 9 months or so. I want to know. And Sony does, but what they do the opposite of, we're going to announce it and it comes out when it comes out. And while I don't like it, other people love that because it gives them something to look forward to.
Right.
And because you know what's coming, you just don't know when. And
Right.
so, like, whenever we have the fanboy arguments always come up, it's always something like when Xbox is done after they kind of blow their load in the holiday, everyone's like, "What's next? What's next?" You just don't know. You don't know what's next. It's so
Right.
kind of like, I don't know. But with Sony, it's like, okay, all their big games are out now. What's next? Well, you know, Spider-Man's coming, and you know God of War's coming, but you don't know when. But you know they're coming.
Right.
You don't know anything else that's like in terms of first party or exclusive ish games. There's really not anything else coming out this year.
Right.
It's nothing we know of for certain. So these are issues.
It's definitely something to consider. I think Microsoft doesn't want to put themselves in the position. I get into arguments all day. I wouldn't say arguments. I would say debate. I don't argue with people, honestly. I kind of give people one warning. You know, I don't do the fanboy thing. If you want to have a conversation, we can have a conversation. Once it goes beyond that conversation, you either get blocked, muted, or, you know, I don't deal with it. But the thing is, though, is that, you know, if Scalebound releases this spring along with Fable, you know, Microsoft is looked at a bit differently. They don't look like their lineup is weak. Now, however, if Scalebound comes out and Scalebound rated at 55, you know, on Metacritic, it would just continue to be the same thing. Xbox has no games, or their games aren't great quality, or, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lose-lose for Microsoft. So having that game canceled, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the game was canceled. And along with Fable Legends, for whatever reason, those games were canceled. They didn't pan out, or they weren't going to work. And Microsoft wound up canceling them, and obviously showed them off years before. And a lot of people were disappointed because they thought the games would be ready after X amount of time. So that's why I think trying to hold off and not really show something a year out, because God forbid something was to happen to that game and it doesn't function properly that winter, then the next thing you know, oh, the game was being pushed to spring of 2019. Now people are like, oh my God, this game is never going to come out. You know, it's almost like Below. We've been waiting for Below, like, bro, we've been waiting for Below since Xbox came out. You know what I'm saying? And like, we're not seeing it. It's not happening. So it's just one of those things where hopefully the game releases this year, because that's another RPG and that's a big exclusive that Microsoft have, at least it's console exclusive that Microsoft has, that a lot of people look forward to, and people pretty much have probably forgotten about that game. They pretty much have probably forgotten about it. So hopefully,
I did.
that's what I'm saying. Like, people don't, and that's a great game. We played that game at E3. I played that game at E3 2 years in a row. So hopefully this game comes out this year, because it really needs to drop. It's a very Zelda-ish game. And it's really cool, made by the Capybara Studio. And I look forward to hopefully seeing that in Cuphead and Ashen, filling out the rest of the year with some of the big AAA titles they got coming out.
Man, I don't trust anything with the name referring to depth. Deep down, low. I'll trust it like that. It's just like, I don't know what it is. It's like a cursed name.
Oh man, right? Yeah, forget it. So moving on. Ding! I need a bell, bro. I gotta get some sound effects. Microsoft,
the way, remember?
I know. Wow. Microsoft is working with a new studio called, oh my God, what is it called? Studio
Gobo.
There you go. Studio Gobo.
Yeah,
now, Studio Gobo.
Disney Infinity.
Correct. Studio Gobo worked on Disney Infinity in the F1 series, the racing series F1. Now, normally, I'm like, oh my God, please do not make Halo amiibos. I would kill myself if Microsoft shows up with any type of Halo amiibos. But then I started thinking about Rare and Rare's mascots. And I look at what Skylanders did and what Nintendo does with their amiibos and what Disney Infinity tried to do. And I sit up and say to myself, could this studio be working on some sort of platformer where you're able to use all of Rare's mascots for a platform game? Imagine playing a game where you're able to use both Banjo Kazooie and Conquer in the same game at the same time. A co-op platform experience. I don't know how that would work, but I can tell you right now, if it's done really well, that could be huge. That could be actually really big. It would definitely be copycat as hell, without question. I would not want them to do an amiibo thing. And what's crazy about that is that I've seen articles about them trying to get into this aspect with these amiibos. These kind of like figurines with these memory cards, these data cards on them to keep the information, those statues. And I remember seeing something like that a long time ago. And I probably won't be able to find an article if I wanted to. But I remember seeing something like this a long time ago about how Microsoft was looking at investing into something like this. Now, if this studio is the studio that's working on the project that they have been talking about investing in, and they pop up at E3 with a platformer, like, Banjo Adventures or Rare Adventures, and it's got all these characters in it, I'm just trying to figure out how big of an impact would that be as like the ultimate platformer with all of Rare's mascots, from Cameo to Banjo to Conquer to what the Battletoads. How cool would that be? Do you think that would be impactful?
I don't know about that in particular. I just doesn't sound right to me. I don't know what it is. I think it's something entirely new. I don't think it has anything related to do that at all. I really don't. I just I feel like this is them trying to make something new, because all their experience is just in Disney Infinity, which is done, and that's not happening again. I feel like it's something entirely new. Now, I have dreams of what I wish it could be, and
Which
there's a
is,
reason why I started talking about a Smash Bros. Game.
oh Jesus,
Like
a Smash
it
Bros
may not be
game
a
with,
Smash Bros. Clone, but it could be something similar to that, where you have different characters involved and they're all together and from multiple different franchises doing something together. Like I came up with one, and it's like I thought of like a cool roster of people for like maybe a clone. I don't know. I'd like a Smash Bros with Microsoft characters in it. There's plenty to work with before
so
everybody's like,
everybody would have their own brawler. PlayStation has the what is it? PlayStation All Stars.
yeah.
Nintendo would have Smash Bros. And then Xbox would have their games. Shout out to Drunken Master D. Drunken Master D says they should have all the different Xbox characters, not just Rare, and call it Xbox Heroes.
Ooh,
What do you think about that? That
legend.
sounds pretty dope. That sounds pretty dope.
That'd be cool. That'd be
That's,
fun.
that's actually a pretty cool. That's actually a pretty cool name. Xbox Heroes. That's pretty dope. A brawler though. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's a seller though. I don't know if Xbox.
But it could be a service.
Oh God, I can't do it another service. Like, listen, Microsoft needs to start dropping some $60 games. They need to invest in some titles. They're gonna listen. I'm gonna tell you right now, Microsoft's holiday is gonna be fleshed out with these AAA titles, indie games, and these remasters, reboots of what is the game? Recore, and another game. I can't remember what it was that they were supposedly making a definitive edition of. But that's how I see them filling out their holiday season, probably going into spring. I would hope that Sea of Thieves gets pushed into spring of 2018. I truly do. I truly want this game to be pushed because I'm concerned about the game a bit. I also think that we need to see more of it. However, it would be great to push it because I would want them to put something new in there, something we haven't seen, something we haven't heard in that holiday lineup to go with Crackdown. I think Crackdown and State of Decay are big titles. I think State of Decay is actually a very big title. A lot of people don't realize how much money is being invested into State of Decay. And this is damn near a AA, AAA title at this point. But I really want them to surprise us with at least one major exclusive title that will really make people be like, I gotta get Xbox for this game. I really hope they show up with something like that. But this studio Gobo or whatever it's called would be cool, I guess, if they made a brawler or they made some sort of platformer with all of Xbox heroes. You kind of got like a little, mini
like team up game.
What you say?
Like a team up game. I'd
yeah,
like a top down kind of game, like an Ultimate Alliance kind of deal, where it's like you pick your squad, you go out there, you have what? Why not?
No. You can't do that. That's cheap, bro. Nobody's gonna buy it. Nobody's gonna buy that. Nobody's gonna buy that. Nobody's gonna buy that. Imagine going to E3 and you got this new studio. You make them do that, they will get killed. I will do a
how are you show first person and third person? Because like, okay, let's say you pick Master Chief, because whatever game it's gonna be is gonna have Master Chief in it. You're gonna make him be a third person shooter now?
No, what I'm saying is they need to go with a platform. They don't have any platformers besides Ori.
I'm telling you, platform with Marcus Phoenix.
That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, look, if you ever played Skylanders was successful for a time. It really was. It really was for a time. And I'm telling you, if they were able to develop some sort of platformer where you're able to play with all these characters and all these villains and you can put them in a game, but it's not as adult. It's not as adult. It's a platformer. It would be pretty cool. Now, I'm not sure if Marcus Phoenix and in the Master Chief, John works in that world. That's why I stuck with Rare, because Rare has so many mascots. It made sense to do it that way. But I mean, if they went with a brawler or if they went in that direction, I think that would be more appealing than a top-down type game. Like, I don't know. I don't see that as something that's as impactful as something where you play with all these Xbox characters in one type of platformer or one type of brawler. I like the brawler idea. The brawler idea makes more sense. I don't know if that's the studio for it. I just look at their history, which was the Disney Infinity in the F1 series, and I'm trying to figure out what they would build. And the only thing I can see them building is a platformer because it seems that they have experience in it. So, that's the one thing that I was looking at.
I like I said, I personally don't think it's going to have anything to do with it. Like, I think it's something completely brand new and fresh. I just feel like they're doing something completely fresh. Or there's always the opportunity for a Fusion Frenzy game.
I mean, I would love a Fusion Frenzy game if they were able to
do that. Their art style would fit pretty nice with that.
That game would have to be either $19.99 or $29.99. It's a party game, and it needs to be a digital title only. But they could make it great. I really wish Rare would use the Connect Rivals avatar system for like any type of game that's like that. Like, I feel like that's just wasted technology. I thought that the avatar building system was incredible and wasted technology. Imagine using that as something like Skyrim or something where you can create a character and put your face on. To me, that technology is way better than what you do with 2K. In 2K, you come out looking like a character from Shadow of Mordor most of the time. So to me, it's really important that they get back to that. Honestly, I would scrap all avatars and just use the Rare avatar system. But obviously, that's a complete overhaul.
Well, we got custom gamer picks. We don't care anymore.
Yeah, custom gamer picks is pretty cool.
By the way, before I forget, I want to throw this out there. For everybody who wants a custom gamer picks now, you can't wait. You want custom gamer picks now. You can go to your go on your PC and go to the Windows Store. You can go to the app. I think it's the App Store, and download the Xbox Beta one. Now, there's a little app you'll download real quick. It's just like the Xbox app. They'll try out new features here and there. If you go to customize your profile and you go to customize your gamer pick, you could actually upload your own custom gamer picture. However, it will need to be 1080p by 1080p resolution minimum for you to set that up. But I don't want to see after whatever the custom gamer picks roll out. I don't want to see any avatar picks anymore. I don't want to see any of these presets. I want custom all the way. I want to see people get creative.
I'm waiting for you to get my custom Superman tick pick. Pause. That sounded weird for a second. I need a TIC custom Superman pick, yo.
I'll get it done. We'll get it done.
It's got to say like KORX Kal-El on it so people know who they're following.
Yeah, one of the things I learned though is because it being 1080p is fine, but that thing's small and it's circular. Like it will show up as a circle, and it is small. Like so, if you're trying to rely on some wording on there, you're gonna have a bad day. Like, do not count on that.
That's funny. All right. So we know Microsoft, they got at least one studio that they're partnering with right now. We've heard about new IPs for 2018 or the next fiscal year, which means they have something up their sleeves. So we have things to look forward to at E3, which is going to be great, obviously, with Scorpio and all the upsampling and the 4K resolution and native and 4K assets and things like that. Very exciting stuff. And I know a lot of people are excited for that. So I can't wait to get more info on that and talk a little bit more about that. And as well as talk about what Microsoft may have up their sleeve at E3. I'm excited to go. I can't wait. Man, I'm buzzing. Can't wait to get back out in LA and really get a chance to chat with everybody. And hopefully I can get an interview with Phil this time around. I always get a chance to talk to him, but I always get him at the wrong time where I don't have equipment or I don't have a mic or something recorded. So hopefully I'll be able to get up with him and maybe get a nice one-on-one and catch up. Listen, Prey demo is out. You know I'm not playing Prey right now. I don't plan to play the demo. But Anchorman's playing the demo right now. What do you think of this game so far, Anchor? I know you said you was going to hold off for a while. Is it what you expected it to be?
That's a tough one to say. I don't, for the most part, I try not to go in with expectations. I really try not to. So I kind of went into it blind, and I've played it on Xbox and on PlayStation. So I know how both of them work, and I see the differences. I played them on the same TV, played them side by side. I see the differences. I know what's going on. The best explanation I've heard for what kind of game this is it's very much inspired by BioShock and Dead Space. And it's like there was a crazy love child between BioShock and Dead Space, and it was raised by Dishonored.
They abandoned that baby quick. Really that baby was nuts.
Like it's really cool. Like imagine something kind of like it's a very similar setup. You're on a space station alone. There's no spoilers or anything like that for people who care. You're on a space station and you're like, so something's gone down and you're trying to figure out what's going on. It's similar setup like BioShock a little bit, but it has its own weird kind of like supernatural-esque kind of flair to it that reminds you like of Dishonored a little bit, but it has its own feeling though. Once you get past that initial deal, it has its own identity. And beyond that one initial comparison, that you can't really compare it to anything else. And so it's really amazing. It feels like, for me, my issue with Dishonored was everything felt really, really open. It's a sandbox game, which is great, and I just finished Dishonored 2, so I mean it's a fun game to play. I wanted a little more, I guess, structure to it. I don't know. Sometimes I've been in the mood more for a linear game, and this is that linear game, but it's gonna have levels to it, and it's gonna have replayability. Like there is a lot of cool little trees already. I've already seen that pop up. In terms of how it runs, they're using the Void engine, which is basically the new id engine that they use for Doom. Which has been altered for Arcane. No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. That's not correct. Arcane developed the Void engine, which has been used for Dishonored 2 for the first time, and then used over for this game. The
Okay.
id engine is being used for Wolfenstein and Doom, and eventually Fallout, Skyrim, all the rest of that then on.
Okay.
So the Void engine is decent. It's very much stylized. Very similar art style to Dishonored as well. Um, enough so it's not like Dishonored 1, more like Dishonored 2 in terms of style. Like they're clearly going for a stylized version of characters and environments. They're not shooting for realism here.
Right.
And it works, but it still feels like these are actual tangible characters and not cardboard cutouts. um,
Gotcha.
any other questions?
No, no, it sounds interesting. I'm not gonna lie, it actually has me intrigued. It makes me want to play the game. However, I'm not fond of completely dark black creatures teleporting all around me, so I will pass. It's just not my
Well,
MO.
you're gonna get
Not
used to
gonna,
that whenever you play Alien.
you know what? You and this alien, all right? This console is gonna be $499. God damn it! All right, you guys gonna stop coming at me talking about pick up Alien now on discount for $19.99 and all this nonsense. The bet ain't even over yet. People trying to get me to buy freaking Alien
Hey, buy it
Isolation
when it's
already.
cheap.
Anyway, moving on.
Other thing before we move on, just real quick. Playing it right now, there are a couple of issues, technical ones that I noticed on the Xbox. I personally have not noticed anything. I've heard reports of texture pop-ins. I have not seen anything. The Xbox version, at least in comparison, brighter colors, more focused on darker shadows and such. PlayStation, they normally shoot for like this more realistic color palette thing. They do this with most of their games. That's just how it is. On the
Gotcha.
PlayStation, there is input lag. So there is a delay in between pressing buttons and reactions.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like night and day, like, oh my God, this is horrible, but it's noticeable that when I played it, I noticed it.
Yeah.
And other people have reported that as well. On Xbox, I never experienced any, and other people are saying there is no input lag. I could say I have not seen anything on Xbox currently.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, we'll get the truth from Digital Foundry. I guarantee you, everybody will believe what Digital Foundry says, especially when they say that the PlayStation version is the best. But for some apparent reason, when it comes to Scorpio, no one believes them. I don't get it. But whatever works. Oh man. Um, yeah, so listen, before we get out of here, man, I want to address some controversial stuff. First and foremost, I want to apologize to any of the DC fans out there for Anchor's latest video. Okay, because this guy is just blasphemous when it comes to the DC universe. You know, he's all hopped up on Marvel's, snorting snorting that Marvel line. Um, and listen, I'm impressed. Look, I watched Man of Steel the other day, and after watching it again, I actually enjoyed the movie a lot more. And I loved the movie the first time. In my opinion, I thought it probably was number 3 best superhero movie all time, in my opinion. And obviously, I'm slightly biased because I'm a Superman fanboy, but I really felt Um, Dark Knight was the best. Then Marvel's Avengers was number 2 until I saw the latest Captain America Civil War. I thought was great. So I put that at number 2. And then I thought Man of Steel at number 3. Now, what I didn't like about Man of Steel was I didn't like the fact that Microsoft. I didn't like the fact that they made Lois Lane find out who Clark was so easily and them falling in love after literally seeing each other about 3 times. That's the one thing that I didn't like. And clearly there are some small instances where it's like, Superman or Clark, shall I say, kind of gives up his identity immediately. Like when he talks to the preacher, like I never got that scene. I never understood why that scene was so significant. He's in church. He's talking to a preacher. The preacher's like, he's like, yeah, they come for me. How do you just tell a random preacher? Like I get it. Maybe he's supposed to keep the secret, but still, to me, I didn't get that. However, that fight scene with Feora, which is Zod's, kind of like second in command, as well as his wife in some instances, and the Giant, which is a part of that 3-man Zod cell. I thought that fight scene between Superman and those two characters was absolutely amazing. And I love the fact that they made Zod a villain, but not a villain. It was more of him just trying to do his job because he wasn't born. They were genetically engineered with a purpose. And his purpose is to keep Kryptons and the Kryptonians alive. And by wiping out Earth by any means necessary, that's what he planned to do. So really it was more programming than it was him just trying to be a villain. It just happened to be that Clark, being a natural born son of Krypton, was raised by humans and fell in love with the Earth and considers himself more human than he does a Kryptonian. And in the process actually wipes out the entire Kryptonian race. He actually does that, like in that movie. That movie was amazing to me. I really thought it was great. Now, clearly, they've had other films like Green Lantern that wasn't great. But you go back to some of the DC stuff, some of the Marvel stuff, and a lot of Marvel stuff wasn't great either. So I completely disagree with what Anchor's talking about. He wanted to put this video out and made it all controversial.
You got to hear. Like, here's the Cliff Notes version. Basically, I urge you guys to check it out because it basically goes in a little bit more detail. My basic concern is I broke it down the video into 3 different things. Why I'm not a fan of the DCEU, why I think Warner Brothers should stop it, and then what they should do going forward. Personally, I just think this one is not a pre-calculated, hey, here's our cinematic universe thing. It's very much we're going to cash grab Avengers. We need to do this now. Let's rough it up. We got to put this thing out now. And they rushed it to the point where I don't acknowledge it as a true DC cinematic universe. It doesn't.
Well, I mean, you can't say that though. Listen, I think that, and a lot of people don't like better. Why? Listen, I think that they already started this road that they've gone down. Obviously, the Dawn of Justice, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice wasn't the greatest thing ever. There clearly was a lot of things missing and a lot of things that didn't make sense in the film. However, it tries to set up nicely for the DC universe. Now, introducing all these other characters is really kind of like prequels. So kind of like what you'll be seeing, honestly, and this is the reality of it is that like the Wonder Woman story pretty much is basically just a prequel to Wonder Woman, and you getting to see her before the DC movie comes out, before Justice League comes out. But you're going to have Flash with his own film. You'll have Green Lantern with his own film or a team up film or whatever. Batman will eventually get his own film. Cyborg gets his own film. And hopefully all of this stuff is kind of like after the team up because they all come together. And then you get to see them being heroes instead of getting their origin stories, because you'll get their origin stories in the DC Justice League universe. So I'm with that. That's fine if that's the route they want to take. And I don't really care for the origin stuff as much because the origin stuff always starts slow. You have to see them get their powers, what happened to them learning how to use it, and then finally getting to a boss battle at the end, instead of just getting a film about a hero trying to survive, trying to protect people or save the world or save their city or whatever it is. So with them eliminating a lot of the origin stuff by putting it into the DC Justice League movie, you can go right into the next set of films where they're just complete heroes fighting a particular villain. And I like that concept. I really do like that concept, but it has to work, and Justice League has to be good. Yeah. They can't flop on Justice League.
So the thing in particular is, like, at least the video I made was just basically saying I don't like it because it's rushed, and I think it's visually too dark for the DC universe. DC should be a little more colorful than this. Like it feels like they just put like this sheet metal on top of it and said film. I just don't. I don't personally like that. But ultimately, I think it's the whole Zack Snyder influence, and it's a shaky foundation. I feel like they could do better. And I think also Warner Brothers is just so spread out between all these universe attempts they're trying to do. One of the things they got going on is they're spread out between the DC universe currently. They're trying to bring back Harry Potter to its own cinematic universe. They're trying. They're doing the kaiju universe with
That kaiju universe is about to be fire. That's right now to me. That's the hottest thing they got going right now as a universe going.
My suggestion is, and just real quick, I want to. This is kind of a multiverse topic. One of the things I want to point out is just that the kaiju universe is going to be dope. It's going to be great. And Warner Brothers, I personally think, should say, okay, after Justice League, we're stopping for a couple of years. No more movies. We're going to stop for a bit, focus on the kaiju universe, really develop that out, throw that out there while Marvel's out there finishing up Avengers, getting that out there. And then we swoop in and not really reboot, but like soft reboot it. Like say, okay, the events of Justice League occur, Dark Side, yada yada yada. You go through the line, and basically you come in with maybe a new hero or something like that, maybe coming years later, and you basically get everybody on contracts. You don't have any of this stuff like with the Ben Affleck situation where I'm directing, I'm standing behind Batman 100%, and then he leaves the project. You save face, you get everybody in order, you get them all on contracts where they're definitely going to do it, and you say, okay, I'm picking a random date like 2020. 2021.
That's way too far out.
Not really. It's like 3-4 years.
So you lose momentum at that point. You're losing momentum at that point, and you're losing competition because DC is just pumping these movies out left and right.
You give it time for Marvel to finish their Avengers stuff, and they're done. And you come in with the best possible Justice League, well, not Justice League movie, something else like that. But I use Captain Marvel as an example. It could be anybody else really, who, like, let's say they come in. This would be an opportunity for you to recast if you need to recast, because it's going from this new character's perspective, and so you can change the tone a little bit. You can do
that room is the film. That room is everything. Let's get off the subject. But listen, for another time, maybe I'll hop on Multiverse next week and we'll discuss more of it. But yeah,
but it is National Superhero Day.
That's definitely different.
So
that's definitely something they need to look into. So listen, that's it for the show this week. I want to thank everybody for stopping out. We have up to like 45-50 people in here. Very grateful for all the support. Please give us a thumbs up. Make sure you share that out to all of your friends. Do we have time to do a Q&A?
Yeah, we got time.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and do a Q&A. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and start typing them in the chat. We will go ahead and answer them. I want to thank everyone for stopping out, and thank you for your support, as always, for supporting Tick and Tick Podcast and checking out TICGN.com. If you've been going there and you notice it's been down, we've been having some technical difficulties with our host, which is Bluehost, and we're working very hard and diligently to get this site running properly and back up and get news out. So please don't worry. The site will be functioning properly within the week. And again, make sure you check out Multiverse on Mondays, Trophy Life on Tuesdays, Super Pod Shots on Wednesdays, and of course, Tick Podcast on Thursdays, as well as Double XP on Fame Entertainment's channel, which is our debate show, as well as here once we get the upload. And it's edited a bit because, we try not to do too much cursing and try to keep it family friendly on this particular channel. So that's going to be it. Check us out on iTunes. You can find Tick Podcast on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher, Google Play. We are located pretty much on any cast app, especially on the Xbox. If you want to listen to us while snapped playing your game, you could always check us out there, as well as our network show with all 4 network podcast, Trophy Lights, Tick Podcast, Double XP, all on Tick Network, and that's also on iTunes as well as Google Play. And we gratefully appreciate your support. I'm your host. I'm going to end this for the MP3 crowd. So I'm your host, KLWarXKL, the last on the planet Xbox with Anchorman V. Shout out to B Money 101. We'll be back next week with another episode of Tick Podcast, episode 52, and hopefully we have some great news and more info coming your way for Xbox, and we're off this planet. Peace. All right. Feels good to be here once again. We're going to go ahead and take a few questions. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them now. Obviously, it's a bit late on the West Coast. It's still early, so we appreciate the West Coast guys stopping in. If you're on the East Coast, we thank you for stopping in as well. Um, Listen, Microsoft is really in a situation where they have to try to combat the noise that they kind of put themselves in with Scorpio in new games. People keep talking about they want to see games. They're ignoring the games that's coming, which to me is just such a double standard. Um, and people, one of the things I constantly see on Twitter is how people feel like the games that they're going to release um, aren't their cup of tea. And I want people to try to understand that if the game is not your cup of tea, if it's not meant for you, that doesn't mean that the games aren't good. And then people say things like, well, shouldn't they try to appeal to everyone? I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to appeal to everyone. But these guys aren't mind readers. Just because Sony may put out something or Nintendo may put out something that appeals to a national audience and it works, sometimes that happens. And sometimes you might put something out and it doesn't work and it doesn't happen. And that's happened for all three studios. It's happened across the board. So it's not like it's just a Microsoft thing. It's a PlayStation thing, but sometimes you keep pumping out stuff and it hits. And for Sony, it hit. And they also have a great relationship with Japanese developers, and that's great for them. And that's great for the PlayStation brand and for the PlayStation gamers. And they've been able to really get some great support. So hopefully Microsoft can now get some good third-party support. Hopefully Scorpio does what it's supposed to do, make it more dev friendly, make it more indie friendly, and developers will be more willing to put games on it, especially with the idea of them making developers start from their highest setting, their ultra high settings, and then work their way down instead of starting with the base of the 360. I mean, the Xbox One. So I think that's a really cool way to do things, and I think we're going to really see some impressive stuff. But let's get into these questions, man. So.
I like the question of Zach Kareem. Like that.
Yeah, Zach Kareem. Shout out to Zach, man. Zach's been a loyal supporter of Tick Podcast, comes into our show often, gives us great comments, man. I really appreciate that type of support. He says, do you guys think Microsoft should make some AA games, but make them multi-plat like they done with Minecraft? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Microsoft starts making multi-plats, they should just be a multi-plat studio making games. They shouldn't have a console. I would actually, if Microsoft went multi-plat, I probably would cancel Tick Podcast and make a multi-plat show, because that would really be devastating to the brand. Honestly, I would actually feel some type of way about that. I know that's very fanboyish, but I would really feel some type of way about that. I would really feel like almost not betrayed, but I would almost feel like, wow, Microsoft has given up. That's it for them. So no sense in constantly, doing a show to talk about a multi-plat studio. Like, I wouldn't do it. But they need to do those. They could make more AA games at $39.99, but they need to make sure that the games are high quality. Record could have been a very successful game, but it was rushed. It was absolutely rushed. We all know it was rushed, and now they're trying to make up for it with a definitive edition. And I don't know if they still have that audience. They may have lost that audience, and I don't know if Record will recover from that. But hopefully Microsoft has some things up their sleeve where they do have some single player experiences, and they got some new IPs that will show off what they can do and get themselves not so much back in the race, because being number 2 or being number 3 doesn't mean you fail. You're still a success. It's just you're not as popular as number 1. So hopefully that allows them to get in a position where their games can be purchased more by the Xbox crowd and they can attract more people to purchasing their games. Hank, what do you think? You think they should go multi-plat?
Now, I think Microsoft should get involved more in like the second party, maybe AA title games. Now, making the multi-plat, maybe in terms of like having to go to PC, sure, but
right.
No, I don't see him making it to PlayStation. I think that was more of a special scenario because it already had gone to PlayStation.
Right, exactly. Which, by the way, they're just making money hand over fist with that game. Seriously. Okay, shout out to Master Jazz. Yo, Master Jazz is, one of those guys, comes in, supports Tick Podcast. I see him on N4G all the time. Very intelligent Xbox gamer, always has great comments and rebuttals and things like that. Really, really awesome guy. Thank you for the support, Master. Master comes in, he says, do you think Microsoft pulled a Nintendo and just does not care what Sony does? And just want to do their own thing with Scorpio because Microsoft already knows they will never catch Sony. I think Microsoft has. Go ahead.
I think part of that's true. I think Microsoft has kind of already conceded, like, yeah, we're not going to catch up in terms of sales to Sony, but they're going to do what they can to win back at least the United States.
Right.
I think that's kind of their goal right now.
Right. I think I agree with Anchor on that. I don't think they even think at this point of catching Sony. I think that ship has sailed, and with them not doing any generations anymore, that ship really, that's not even the idea anymore to catch Sony and console sales. And I talk to PlayStation guys about this all the time, at least the people that are rational enough to talk to me about it. People put too much stock in console sales because you can, like I said before, if you can have 60 million people who have these consoles, but if you're only selling 2 million on a game, 3 million on a game, that's not particularly great when you have an install base of 60 million. Don't get me wrong, that's a success for the game. But really, when you have that install base, you should expect more. You should want more because you have the install base of that amount of people. That just, it doesn't compute. The numbers don't add up. So, when you look at it from that perspective, I think that Microsoft says to themselves, we're not doing generations anymore. So even if PS5 came out, they're still not going to be doing generations. They'll have another upgraded console that will be a next generation console with probably a new name, but all of the games will be backwards compatible. You'll still be playing Scorpio and Xbox One games. So at the end of the day, and all of those will be counted as Xboxes going forward. I don't even think they'll even separate them in sales, just like they're not separating Xbox Scorpio from Xbox One. I don't think they'll ever separate them in sales again. So when I look at it from that perspective, I just don't see, with why competing with trying to catch Sony is so important. What they need to worry about is how they can sell more software and how they can continue to grow Xbox Live and get people to sub to their Game Pass and get people to buy their exclusives and make sure that their studios make money and they're not investing millions upon millions of dollars and not recouping that in revenue. That's really important. So hopefully Microsoft is able to get creative. They can get some new studios in, hire some new talent and start to produce some really high quality stuff again. HUD Zero, shout out to HUD Zero. HUD Zero says, since everyone is jumping the gun about Phil's comments about story-driven games, what do you think he and his team should do? And is everyone so impatient for new games? Anchor, you want to answer that one?
Come back to me in a second.
Okay. I think, well, obviously everybody's jumping the gun. Story-driven games are important because what it does for you as a platform is give people a sense of adventure, not just multiplayer. And sometimes you don't want to play multiplayer. Sometimes you just want to play a game by yourself. And if you don't have that on your platform, you kind of are missing a sense of diversity in a piece of the genre, even though you have third party. It also allows them to bring in people who may not have been interested in just multiplayer games and only want to play single player games. So it does have an impact. Let's not negate that. Let's not say that it doesn't have an impact. I think what people are misinterpreting is that its financial impact long term isn't as great as a game that has a service or is a subscription based title. Those have longer impacts. Games like Destiny has a longer impact that will make Activision millions and millions and millions for years and years and years. And I think Phil sees that and he says to himself, if he can get a few games like that on Xbox, then when it comes to those first party games, those single player games that are exclusive or that are first party, if they flop, they flop. You don't have nothing to worry about because you have all this income coming in from these subs and these services. You can take the hit. But if you don't have that coming in, you can't take the hit. And then your board questions, why do you need money for this game? Why are we giving you $30 million to make the next Quantum Break or the next so-and-so? And these games aren't doing well. So I think a lot of people aren't looking at it from that perspective, which is also a development and business perspective. They only see what they want to see because it affects their console of choice and not looking at the bigger picture from a business perspective.
Mm-hmm. Now, answering this question, I think for Phil, it will require a ratio where, because for them, Microsoft has always been more focused on making money and making sure they're solvent above all else. And
Right.
Sony, they've said this before, like they don't really care when it comes to each game making money. Either it's going to make money or it's going to win fans. It's going to be one of those two, and either way, they're good. So they focus on it, and they've been doing this for a much longer time, and figure they know what they're doing. And Microsoft, though, there's accountability, and they got to worry about all this stuff. And I think in the past, it's been as long as the big sellers are selling, they'll do some of the small stuff, but on occasion. As long as Gears are selling well, as long as Halo's selling well, they kind of didn't care. And then towards the end of the 360 life cycle, you saw them, they stopped experimenting, really. And I think the issue is now, in terms of single player games, Microsoft's got to bring it in terms of what people are playing and long term. They if like, okay, Sea of Thieves as an example. I don't know. I don't think this will probably happen, but like if Sea of Thieves comes out and it's in consistently in like the top 10 most played games, and it's making money, then they could be a little more risky. I think a good ratio to strive for is like 1 out of every 4 games being a single player focused. I don't think that's, in terms of a business perspective, like a very profitable model. Maybe 1 out of 6 games being a single player focus might be best. But I'm just saying, as a purely just single player experience. Now they could have a campaign and multiplayer and that kind of stuff. That's different. But we're talking just single player games.
Yeah. Okay, so we're moving forward. Zedpo1 says, when are you guys going to do game reviews on this channel? We used to do game reviews on this channel, but now we have ticgn.com where we do all our game reviews. We can't do a video review and a written review at the same time. Metacritic doesn't allow it, and we're actually being considered by Metacritic. We've been being watched by Metacritic for some time. We're in communications with them consistently, and they have guidelines that they go by. So we can't do both. We have to have a written one. And if we do a video, it would have to be the video, and it would have to be that one particular score. So because we do written on TICGN, we no longer do video reviews. However, we will give our thoughts on certain games during the show. Joe Sinister says, with Xbox E3 being on Sunday, do you think their press conference will run a bit longer, maybe 2 hours? Also, what do you think of Xbox being at Gamescom and Tokyo Game Show this year? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great for them. That means they have some conferences. It sounds like they got a ton of stuff to show. That's what it sounds like. And they definitely want to show off more Scorpio stuff. Tokyo Game Show is very intriguing to me. Them coming back says maybe they have something in the Japanese realm that may be big. Maybe they have Final Fantasy's 15's MMO coming, not 15, what is it? 14 MMO coming to Xbox. Maybe on a cross-play or something like that. Who knows? That would be not a big deal, but it's something that I know a lot of people have been clamoring for some time. But maybe they have some exclusive titles as well. So that would be big. I can't wait to see what they show off at E3 and if they have something special for Tokyo Game Show. As far as Sunday is concerned, I think it's very important that they go on Sunday. They don't have anybody to worry about when it comes to someone following up behind them. And they have a gap between themselves and Bethesda show, which usually is around 5 or 6 o'clock Pacific time. So if they needed to run over, they could, and they wouldn't have to worry about Sony coming up behind them or Ubisoft coming up behind them or some other conference where they have to get off the TV to give up time for something else. So that's great, and hopefully Microsoft does do a 2-hour show, because one of the things Phil said was that he really wanted to show their games. They needed the time to show their games, show what the games really are like, and give the games an opportunity to be shown so people understand what they're looking at and what they're going to be purchasing this holiday. And I think that's big. Tony Mo says, do you think the VR headsets are going to launch this year and have at least 1 or 2 good games? No.
I think it could be one, because I think they already confirmed one VR headset's coming out. But last year was all about VR. This year's no.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have Oculus Rift and Vive, which I heard are both compatible, or supposed to be compatible, but Microsoft's own headset I think won't release till next year. I think that'll be good for them hardware wise if they want to drop that. And hopefully the price by that time will be much cheaper. Let's see. HUD Zero says, follow-up question: why does everyone think Phil is Peter Moore? Peter had a foothold in Japan already with Sega, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think people look at 360 and the success of it and really wanted to kind of fall back in line and be the 360 again. But the bosses were different. I think Microsoft was different, which is why I really loved Balmer. I thought Balmer was all in on Xbox, on everything. This guy was so energetic. He was such an Xbox guy. And Peter Moore, these guys really put Xbox on the map with a lot of the games that they had early on. Don Mattrick came in and really kind of set up the business side of things, which kind of started making Microsoft some money. But in the end, he wasn't a gamer, and he didn't appeal to the gamers, and he didn't understand that, and that's why he's no longer here. So I think that Satya Nadella is not Balmer. Is more focused on Microsoft as a whole, mobile and cloud and PC, and really doesn't really care about the Xbox brand itself, more in a way that he cares about what it can, how it can contribute to spreading, I guess, more influence of Microsoft through Xbox and getting revenue back into the company. I don't really think he actually cares about the gaming side of it, though. I really don't. I really don't think they really care about the gaming side of it, because if they did, the investment would be much, much bigger. The marketing and advertising would be much, much bigger. It would really just be on a whole nother level. And hopefully they can get back to that with 360, with Xbox Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
Endless Echo says, nobody jumped the gun. It's the truth. Xbox is going to focus only on multiplayer games. Well, Endless, if that's what you believe, I can't knock that.
Everybody doesn't know anything.
Yeah, I know. I mean, everybody.
just
like
we had a lot of trolls this time. Jeez.
I mean, that's just how it is, bro. Listen, we've done amazing. We're like at 6,000 subs. And I'm very thankful for everybody and all the support, whether PlayStation or Xbox. We haven't turned into a place where we just turn to the crumb side. We've become a bit more popular, which is great. And having all these shows, people have accepted shows like Trophy Life and Double XP and Multiverse, and they attend those shows and listen to those shows. And I'm very grateful that we can provide all this diversity to gamers. So it seems to be working, and I'm very proud of that. Let's see here. D21 Exclusive says, do you think Cuphead will have a E3 release, and how much you think it will cost? I think Cuphead would be about, you think it'd be 20? I think it'd be 29.
Nah, they after all this time, they can't charge $30.
Watch that game be $29, bro. Yeah, $29 Sasquatch, but it should be $19.99. I agree. It should be $19.99. Let's see here. Okay, and our final question. It looks like. Wait. I might have gone too far. Sorry. Oh, I did go too far. Whoa, I missed a ton of questions. Chaotic Panther asks, what I like about Xbox is the single player game with the good multiplayer. $60 worth of games. Why would I like to trade that for a 6-hour game like The Order and no multiplayer? If I want that, I'll get a PS4. But I think Chaotic, and I respect that. I do agree. I think
also watch your mouth. The Order 1886 is the best exclusive on PlayStation.
Oh Jesus. I think that's great. I get where you're coming from. However, a lot of times when you can concentrate on a single thing, it really makes those things great. It's all about pricing, honestly. Like Titanfall was amazing. Like the first Titanfall was amazing. I don't know why people don't think it was amazing, but I think it's just the price to what you're getting ratio. When you first played Titanfall, it was sort of bare bones in a way where it wasn't a lot going for. It wasn't a lot of modes. It wasn't a lot of weapons. There was no single player. The single player was kind of, well, the story mode was kind of built into the multiplayer, and it really wasn't much but a few missions. And if you won, you eventually got to the end and you got an ending. If you lost, you got a different ending, and you could play both factions. And that's how you get all the mechs. And that was pretty cool. It was different. But overall, as a game, gameplay wise, it was amazing. It was an amazing game. Yet, because it was $60, it got a bad rap, and it didn't really appeal, I guess, to as many. Well, it did appeal to some people, but a lot of people still hated on the game. So I think that when you have the ability to concentrate on just single player, you can make single player as as grand and amazing as possible. Or if you can just concentrate on multiplayer, you can do that as well. Sometimes when you do both, one kind of supersedes the other. It's rare that you get balance. Halo is one of the few games where you kind of get balance. But even lately, the last couple of Halo story-wise, a lot of people haven't been impressed with it at all. So I don't know, but they do need some big, grand single-player experiences that need to be longer than 6 hours, 12, 15, some RPGs that can go up to 30, 40, something like that, man. They need something like that exclusively to really push something that they're missing, a genre that they're missing. To try to finish up. Let's see here. Gaming Addict. Shout out to Gaming Addict. Gaming Addict asks, do you think Anchorman is going to play VR?
No.
There you go. Let's see.
Although I could be paid for inside status.
Yeah. Let's see. Dwayne Luster. Thank you, Dwayne, for stopping in. It's the first time I've seen this name. If you are a regular, I appreciate you stopping in. Dwayne Luster says, how do you think Xbox will show the world native 4K at E3 when not everyone has a 4K TV? Well, here's the thing, D.
Cheating.
I think a lot of people tend to forget this one thing. Even if you don't have a 4K TV, you still get the 4K picture. What Microsoft has done is they've added this thing called downsampling. And basically what it does is it shrinks it to the 1080p image, but you get, especially if it's 4K assets, you still keep the 4K image in the 4K assets. So this is one of the things that I said before that I thought was significant when it came to Xbox and PlayStation. If say, for example, Scorpio has a game that's native 4K and PlayStation has a game that's checkerboard and you have a 1080p TV, the game will downsample to 1080, but you'll be able to keep the image of whatever Scorpio is. I think for the PlayStation version, you don't get that. Now, there is boost mode, but boost mode doesn't work for every game. Whereas with Scorpio, everything is boost mode. So I really like that idea of what they've done. And if you have 4K assets, you still keep those 4K assets at 1080p. That's a big deal. Microsoft's console has the power to do it. And I think a lot of fans say, well, Xbox, Scorpio, and PlayStation Pro are so close, but I think people tend to forget you still have 3 extra gigs of RAM dedicated to just the GPU, just to the game itself. You have a higher throughput on the CPU. You have, the CPU as custom designed to eliminate the bottlenecks that's on the PS4, on the Xbox One, the original Xbox One and the Xbox One Slim. The GPU has been up clock beyond. Like they've really put a lot into this console, and so many people downplay it for whatever reason because they feel like it doesn't have the games. But I feel like what people need to appreciate is the technology and the care that went into designing the console. They looked at everything wrong with the first 2 consoles that they put out and tried to improve upon it to the point that they want their console to be so efficient that it supersedes what the specs actually are. And when people look at PCs brute force everything, and Microsoft is trying to finesse it. So if you got a PC doing something where the CPU is pushing the GPU 85% of the time, Microsoft wants to push their GPU 95% of the time and have that doing it at almost 99% of the rate. So that way there's no bottlenecks and really you get the best games you can get. So we'll see what happens at E3. Clearly, every third party is not going to do native. Some third party may do checkerboard. It is all up to the dev. But first party for Microsoft, 4K 60. That's what they're shooting for. Now, I don't know if Forza Horizon will be 4K 60, maybe 4K 30, but we'll have to see. But as of right now, most developers I'm hearing are really impressed with the console. And I've been hearing a lot of native 4K games. People are really going to be impressed with Scorpio. So yeah, if you have a 1080p TV and they show it off, you might not see the resolution difference, but you will see a difference in the game when you start comparing the games over time. You'll see it, I think. And hopefully Microsoft is able to demonstrate that with third party as well as their own first party studios. All right. And I think we're going to finish up with maybe one more question and head on out. Let's see. Caution Q says it's impossible for Xbox not to have AAA games. We know nothing for 2018, which is true. Jones Sinister says making the dev process easier makes it more attractive to devs to develop for your console, which brings more games. And I also believe that as well. When you have it, you have the ability, and I want people to understand this. When you have the ability to give someone your dev kit, and they can get everything up and running within a week, not months, not an extended period of time. What you to do is to not worry about your own engine being compatible, but just concentrating on optimizing the game to be the best. And instead of you starting from the base console, similar to PS4, where you start from the PS4 and probably work your way up to the Pro, Microsoft wants you to start at your max settings with your PC settings, put it up on Scorpio and work your way down, which is completely the opposite of what most people do. And that's kind of what devs do anyway. You start with your PC settings and then you turn things off as you try to come down. So hopefully, like Phil said, with great result, they've seen developers start with max settings, put it on Scorpio, and the results have come back actually even surprising them. And that's a big deal. So hopefully we get a chance to see some of the games that maybe would run on high-end PCs actually look similar or very, very close on Scorpio. Now, visuals isn't for everyone. Obviously, frame rate is important. I think people have to keep in mind you have extra RAM, upclock CPU, eliminated bottlenecks for that. There's a possibility maybe some games may be 60 on Scorpio, some games may be 30 on PlayStation. We won't know until we see what third-party devs do. But hopefully Microsoft is able to accomplish everything that they want to do, which is 4K 60, uncompromised, like they stated. And I think they have a good chance of doing that. Not for every game, but for a good majority of titles. Anchor, anything you want to say before we head on out here?
Go play Prey.
So again, man, I want to thank everybody for stopping now. I really appreciate it. 52 people watching, almost 1 a.m. on the East Coast. Very grateful for the support. Yeah, no, that's just yeah. Make sure you give us a thumbs up once again. We will be back next week, a Thursday at 11 p.m. I kind of like the late show because I think we get some people on the East Coast and we get a good chunk of people on the West Coast, so we try to hit everybody. Unfortunately, we do miss our European brethren out there, but you guys can check out the show once it's up and it's pre-recorded and stuff like that. Still working on some things, some interviews here and there. Make sure you guys support ticgn.com if you want to get the latest news, information, and reviews. And of course, unbiased content. Make sure you support us if you're tired of messing with the major developers out there that you think may be biased. And that's for whether you're PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox, because our website is multi-plat and we attend to everybody. So again, I'm your host, KRSKLL, the last on the planet Xbox, with my boy Anchorman V. Shout out to B Money, and congratulations to him once again. He has a child on the way, and we're all excited for a new gamer coming to the Tick family. And we'll be back again next week. And make sure you support Tick Network Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and retweet. And we're off this planet. Peace.